Hey guys, welcome to the show. Quick one today, ending the week, just talking about remember to celebrate your victories. Life is tough. Don't forget to celebrate along the way. You guys probably have so much more to celebrate than you might think. So don't be too distracted by the day to day, by the busyness to really enjoy the journey. And I see this all the time with coaching clients and the people that I get to work with, our PT clients. I see it in different areas across our different businesses, and people just get so caught up in the day to day. They forget so quickly of how much progress they've made. And I know it's so hard to keep sight of this. It's so hard to remember to celebrate because if you're like me, you get laser focused on a goal and you're just head down, you're just going, and that can be great for seeing the big picture, playing the long game like we talked about earlier this week, but that can also get you into trouble when you forget to celebrate, when you forget how far you've come, when you get to remember how much progress you've really made. And in clients I work with, our coaching clients at Men Made for More, we see that they make all these improvements in their health over the first few months. It's people are progressing, people are improving, they're doing all these things, but it gets to a point where success almost becomes expected, and then people get frustrated because they're like, man, I was making so much more progress before, and now I'm not there. Now I'm not where I want to be, and we have to physically put some things in place. And that's an important thing that I do with my coaching clients is we have to physically have some things we're tracking in place to say, hey, this is where you were, this is where you are now. Look at how much progress you've made, because I'm sure you've been there in different areas of your life where something that was once such a big goal becomes kind of routine. I've seen that in business. It took us a long time in a new area to pick up some steam and pick up momentum. And I remember hitting our first, 5-figure revenue month for the first time. And it was like, wow, there might actually be something to this whole business thing. And then soon enough, when that just becomes expected, then all of a sudden you're like, man, but we're not hitting our goals. We're not doing this. And if we look back at the early stages of business, I'm like, man, I would have done anything to get to the point where we are now. But you get in that, and progress just becomes assumed or expected, and you really lose perspective of how far you've really come. So a few things to keep in mind for you guys. Have some just a few things I jotted down is make sure to slow down and create space to be able to reflect. If you're always just go go go, if you're never stepping back, if you're never reflecting and just looking at where you actually have come, then of course you're going to forget it. If your schedule is so cram packed that you can't, you don't have any time to think, you're jumping from thing to thing, you're never thinking, then it's going to be really hard to keep the proper perspective. So make sure to slow down, create space in your schedule, implement things like journaling, like meditation, slow down, take a breath, and make sure that you're creating the space to be able to do that. Second thing, be grateful. Remember where you started. This is something that I have to remind myself constantly. I have to remind the clients I work with constantly is that if you really think back to where you started, you've probably made some incredible progress. And if you haven't made incredible progress, then think about the progress you have made. And as you start to list things, you'll probably figure out it's more than you think. We tend to be harder on ourselves. We tend to have a little more judgment towards ourselves. We tend to have a harder time actually seeing the progress we're making. So write those things out. Write down any changes you've made, even if you're on a health journey, it's a weight loss goal, and you're like, but I'm not at that number. It's like, well, have you lost any weight? That's something to be proud of. Um, have you had more confidence? Are you stronger? Are you less winded going up and down stairs? Are these victories that are there? They're present if we look for them, and we can be grateful for the big and the small things. Third thing, reflect and acknowledge it, and be objective with this. This is what I use with clients. This is what we use in our business. Is we have objective measures in place. We check subjective things. We want to know, what's your confidence like? What are you doing? What are these subjective things you're improving emotionally, mentally, those things? But we also have objective things in place to say either you're making progress, yes or no. And this comes back to a little bit of the earlier episode did on keeping score earlier this week, and ways to actually track and measure progress, because our minds are, for whatever reason, they so quickly lose sight. So I'll have these objective measures to pull on, and I'll be like, look, this is where you were. These were what your numbers were in these areas. This is where you started. This is where you're at now. And there's the subjective things we talk about, but there's also fine objective measures that say, hey, you can't, you can't deny that you're progressing. The numbers show it. And I think that objective thing can be a helpful way to remind ourselves of doing that. But that comes back to tracking the right things and keeping score in the right areas. And earlier this week, we talked about that with playing the long game, with competing against yourself. So make sure to check those out if you need some more guidance on that. Fourth thing for you guys, share successes. And I don't mean share it on social media. I don't mean make a post and say, hey, look what I've done. I mean, share it with the people that are meaningful to you. Don't keep these wins to yourself. I think you should, celebrate them yourselves. I think you should, take pride in that, where, in the hard work you've done, but also, with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends. Don't keep these things to yourself. Life's tough as it is. Make sure you're sharing these things. Make sure you're open about them. Make sure you're letting others into your journey and letting them celebrate those successes as well. Last thing, fifth and final thing, allow yourself to celebrate. Again, this comes back to giving yourself the time to do it. If you hit a big milestone, if you do things, if you're like me, you're probably like, cool, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next goal I'm after? I did that goal. Check. I got that. What's the next way I can keep improving? And I love that mindset. I think that's great. But if you're like me, that's gotten yourself into trouble many times. You can ask my wife on that. That's something I have a hard time celebrating, the progress we have made, progress I've made individually, progress we've made as a couple, progress we've made as a business. And it's so easy to lose sight of those. I think you need to step back, allow yourself the time. You can decide what that celebration looks like to you. It's going to look different person to person, but do something that you enjoy. Allow yourself time to celebrate and enjoy it. That's all I got for you guys today. I think it's important to remember this. I think it's important to be reminded of this. I know I need to be reminded of this, because life can wear you down if you're just going and working and achieving and those things. I want you to do those things, but I also want you to step back and be able to enjoy it, enjoy the process. It's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to have fun with this. If you're making progress, celebrate it. Little wins, big wins, it doesn't matter. They're all important. So that's possible for you guys. Step back, remember it, and acknowledge it too. Give yourself credit for it. I want to hear from you guys. What victories, big or small, are you celebrating this week? You can shoot me an email, of the email, or message me on Instagram. Better yet, post a screenshot of this episode, take a screenshot of it, and let me know what your biggest or small victories are this week, this month, what you've been working towards, what you're doing. Tag me in that. And I would love to hear from you guys and what you guys are working on personally and what you're improving at, and make sure to celebrate that. All right, guys, thanks for listening in. I appreciate all you guys, and looking forward to continuing to see your progress and hear about it and hear those things. I'd love when you guys can share those things, and please reach out. I'd love to encourage you in whatever you're working on. So enjoy the weekend or the day whenever you're listening to this. I don't know how long these podcasts live on, so enjoy whatever you're doing, celebrate it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.